Well, we're back. I literally tried to think of like the best way to do the intro into season 2, and I got nothing. So here we are. We're back again. Just me this year, which is going to be interesting. I have a few leads on who I can pull in for certain episodes. So keep your eyes peeled for maybe a Jordan Decker. Not sure if I can convince him. Maybe a certain Kansas City mom super fan from last year that we talked a lot about. Pretty sure that I can pull that one off. We'll see. We might have a few, guest co-hosts here and there. But for now, I'm here. I've got a lot of info for you. It took me over an hour and a half probably to type up all of the notes that I will speak a mile a minute through and get you through in half an hour. So that's frustrating, but it is what it is. There's been a lot happening in the non-con thus far. This is the last weekend of non-conference. League play starts next week. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we got the show rolling so that we weren't behind. This is also the first year that I have video recorded my podcast. Maybe a live stream is in the future. Maybe not. Right now, no, or at least far in the future. I keep reminding myself to like look at the camera and not like at the screen or like anywhere else that I could possibly look. I also have my little Summit League cup. I don't know if I can legally show this. Michael or Ryan or Brian or Aubrey, somebody tell me whether I can do that or not. I'm not making money off of this, so I feel like it's fine. But you might see me whip out the cup to take a drink if I say something stupid that I didn't mean to say, or if I just need a drink, because sometimes you just need a drink. I'm in PhD school. Sometimes I need a freaking drink. And I'm guessing that I might need one after the Vikings are done playing the Eagles tonight. We'll see. Celebratory or grieving, one of the two. I will probably need a drink. But let's get back to volleyball. So what we have for you tonight, an absolute jam-packed episode. Like I said, there's so much going on in the non-con and so much that I want to talk to you about and tell you about and share with you. We're also going to drop in our interview with Matt Buttermore from a little over a week ago. So you may have already seen that. I did put that interview out separately. And we have another special guest for you, Emily Ehman from the Big Ten Network. She played volleyball at Northwestern. She's an analyst now, a digital host for the Big Ten Network. Absolutely incredible human, incredibly talented human, very sweet human. Love her so much. We sat down and chatted for probably a half hour, if not more. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a lot of fun. So I definitely lost track of time. So we'll drop that interview in here for you as well. We'll talk about what's been going on in the non-con, and we will talk about what's on the way for league play, what you can expect or what I think you can expect, as we know that changes day to day. And my opinions change day to day too. But the ones I have right now are pretty strong. So let's get into it. Let's start with Kansas City. Kansas City is on absolute fire in the absolute best way right now. They are 8-1. I don't remember the last time they started 8-1. They may have done that in the WAC when they left the Summit for a little bit before they came back. I'm not sure. But yeah, through their first 9 matches, 8-1, have the most wins in the league thus far. And just to give you, I guess, a little bit of background or a comparison, last year through their first 9 matches, Kansas City was 4-5. So they have completely flipped the script. I'm going to give you some info here. It'll run across the bottom of your screen, but I'm going to tell you as well. By the way, I think this is a nice little touch. I like this about StreamYard because I can be telling you things and talking a mile a minute, and you can also see them on the bottom of the screen in case you missed them. And they'll just keep going until I move on to the next school. So there's that for you. But let's get into it. Kaya Dunford. I will take more Kaya all day, every day. 103 kills already this season. I think through 30 sets, if I'm not mistaken. Leading the team in kills and leading the Summit, third in the Summit. in kills. We will get to the Summit League kill leader in a hot minute. Carly Gillen is leading the league in hitting percentage and in blocks. Sydney Henry has 14 aces and 307 assists and is leading the league in both of those categories, in both aces and assists. Leah Green is leading the league in digs. And I just threw in here honorable mentions, Odyssey Warren and Kimora Whetstone, because these are names that need to be mentioned, even if they're not leading the league or the team in anything. Kansas City, I know I said this last year and y'all didn't believe me, and they didn't prove it either because they didn't quite get to the tournament, the conference tournament, but Kansas City honestly is a team to watch out for. Last year, Christy Posey came on our podcast and she told us a story when we were talking about music, and she was talking about the Lizzo song About Damn Time, and she was like, yeah, one day in practice, I was just like, it's about damn time. You know what, Christy? It was about damn time. You were right. Your team is proving it. Kansas City is a team to watch out for. There are a few teams that I feel like could come out on top of the league this year. This is one of them. I will tell you who the other one is when we get there. So yeah, Kansas City going absolutely bonkers. Most notable win for Kansas City, I would argue, is over Missouri Valley Conference member Missouri State. That was a 5-set win, 3-2 for the Roos. And the only 5-setter that the Roos have played this season, if I am recalling correctly. So the Roos will host this weekend. They're going to play SEMO, Austin Peay, and St. Louis in the Sweeney Center. All 3 of those games on the Summit League Network through Midco Plus. By the way, this is a great time for me to talk about the Summit League Network through Midco Plus. You guys know me. I love Midco Sports. I stand Midco Sports. I just think they're the freaking greatest. They do so much for the league and provide coverage that we might not otherwise have. And top tier coverage, if you ask me. I feel like Midco does such a great job. So we now have the Summit League Network. Some fans have been asking for this. Some fans have not been asking for this. Some are happy about it. Some aren't. I don't really care. I'm happy about it. I can pay the money and watch all of the Summit League games, at least the home ones, for multiple sports in one place. So that makes me super happy. It's Midco. We get Midco guys, Midco people. I love that. Awesome, fantastic, super coolness, remarkable, great, love it. Let's move on to Oral Roberts. First-year head coach Luke Ward looking to turn the program around down in Tulsa. Something that I think that not a lot of people know, that you'll actually find out in my interview with Emily Ehman later, is Oral Roberts is the Summit League volleyball team with the most NCAA tournament appearances. I did not know that. I would have guessed that it was Denver. Denver is second. They have 6. ORU has 7. But I think it's important to remember ORU has been in this league a long time, and the volleyball history in Tulsa is very rich. It is there. It does exist. They have been successful and extremely successful at that in the past. It may take some time for that to come back, but I do think that that success is coming back, and I think that Luke Ward is a good start, as is Trinity Freeman. Holy crap. So ORU is 2-8 right now, wins over Nicholls State and UC Riverside. I think the Riverside win is a good win. I don't know what Riverside's record is, but that California conference, that West Coast conference, can get pretty tough. You've got BYU out there, or you did. I guess I don't know where BYU is going in conference realignment. Probably somewhere stupid. Conference realignment's a joke. What a joke. Don't even get me started on that. I guess I'm getting myself started. But anyways, BYU, Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, occasionally a tough team. So those California teams, and granted, I think UC Riverside's actually in the Big West, but they end up playing some of those teams, is my point. Volleyball on the West Coast is rich, is my point. So I think that Riverside is a good win. I think it's just going to take some time, but ORU is going to get there. And speaking of Trinity Freeman, like I said, Summit League kills leader with 113 kills through 32 sets. I believe second place is Katie Van Egdom of South Dakota State with 112 kills through 32 sets. So certainly a lot of spiking going on in the league, and Trinity Freeman is leading that. ORU is going to go to San Antonio this weekend to play UTSA and Incarnate Word. The UIW game will be on ESPN Plus on Friday night. So there is that for your viewing. Let us move on to North Dakota. North Dakota's 3-6. I would not let the record fool you. If I were you, same thing last year. record maybe wasn't as great. They played a lot better than they had in a long time. But I think that they showed us here and there that they are worthy and are maybe a better team than their record shows. They've played a pretty decent schedule thus far. There's probably a couple matches in there that could and should have gone their way rather than the other way. Their most notable win is over Montana out of the Big Sky, 3-2, excuse me, win there. So a 5-setter. I think that when we as a league can get, I shouldn't say we, don't come at me for being, I am one of those people. I'm one of those people who, like, if I talk about the Vikings, I'll say we, or if I talk about the Jacks, I'll say we, or whatever. Or like even I'm sitting at a Kansas City volleyball game doing this and I'll say we. Like I know that's terrible as a media person, but fan identity is a thing. Sports identity, social identity. Look it up. Or read my published research when I finish my dissertation in 4 years. Look it up. Anyways, as a league, I think it's important when wins over conferences like the Missouri Valley or the Big Sky, and occasionally the Mountain West, when wins like that occur, because I wouldn't say we're on the same level as the Mountain West per se, just because there's some bigger schools over there, but Big Sky, Missouri Valley, Ohio Valley, those are kind of the nitty-gritty mid-major conferences, at least in the area, in the Midwest and getting into the mountains. And I think that it's important to pick up those wins here and there. And going back to last year, USD did win the conference tournament, so they didn't need their schedule to help them get a bid and make us a 2-bid league. But if they had, and I will say, I don't think they would have gotten it, but if they had, the argument that I would have made was that they beat Big Sky champion Northern Colorado. And by the way, Northern Colorado shows up on a few Summit League schedules this season. Most of those games have been played, but I think one of our teams is playing Northern Colorado this weekend. So, but just keep an eye on that. If I say, you know, like out of the Big Sky or out of the Missouri Valley or whatever, I'm saying that because those are important wins. So it's a big deal that Kansas City beat Missouri State. It is a big deal that North Dakota State beat Montana, those types of things. Moving on. Just kidding. I need a drink because I've been talking a lot already. All right, we're good to go. Moving on. If you're unaware, there is a new firm in Grand Forks, a new law firm, and enforcing the law and laying it down is exactly what they're doing. They're putting up massive blocks. I am talking about the firm of Stockman and Gale. If you've been following North Dakota Volleyball Twitter, you know the running joke is the Stockman and Gale firm. I don't know how that got started. I will have to ask Marissa or somebody who follows the podcast, please tell me if this was like a joke in practice or like how this came to be. I'm obsessed with it. The Stockman and Gale firm strikes again. Marissa Stockman and McAllister Gale are absolutely laying it down, giving us a blocking clinic. I did put the North Dakota banner up. Okay, great. I believe that Marissa is 3rd in the league in blocks and McAllister Gale is 9th. Just incredible. Also, the soccer skills, McAllister Gale had a header last week and it went over the net. Marissa Stockman attempted that last year. It did not go over the net, went into the net. But I just love like the multi-sport, the athleticism that's going on. It's fan-freaking-tastic. So if you want to see some good front row work, turn on a UND volleyball match. You will have an opportunity for that this weekend as they are taking on Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois, and the ranked Dayton Flyers over in Cedar Falls. North Dakota has a chance to beat a ranked team. Dayton just cracked the top 25 this week. I would argue well-deserved. It's not often that you see a team like that ranked. The only other team that's kind of a smaller market team that does get ranked sometimes would be like a Western Kentucky. So yeah, Dayton is number 25. Good opportunity for North Dakota to hopefully pick up a win. Somebody else played Dayton. I think it was North Dakota State who came to Ohio and played Dayton and Ohio. I was going to say Athens. That's the city that the University of Ohio is in. If you don't know, I'm in Ohio when I said I was in PhD school. So I'm getting very acclimated to the cities and what is where and what schools are where. But it's been good. I like it. I'm happy to be back in the Midwest and out of the South. The food is so much better up here. The water is better. the people are my Midwest people. I just love it. So sadly did not get over to see North Dakota State, but we're going to talk about them in a hot minute. So let us move on. We are through 3 teams here. Let's talk about USD. I apologize for not having a lot in the ticker on the bottom. I didn't have a lot to say, but I think that's because I'm not worried. So let me explain. USD is 3-5. They were picked first in the preseason poll. I think it is very likely that they do finish first. Whether they go on and win the conference tournament, more up in the air. I do think it's likely that they finish first. However, I do think there are a couple teams that could take that away. I think Kansas City is one. At this moment in time, based on how they're playing right now, based on not seeing anybody in the league play each other, Kansas City, I think, could beat USD, and I also think that North Dakota State could beat USD. Those are the 2 teams that I think USD maybe needs to look out for. But on the other hand, USD is going to USD. Yotes are going to Yote. They're going to be fine. I don't think that anybody should be extremely worried. I think you need to remember that they are probably still figuring out who they are a little bit. They do have a lot of returners. A lot of those returners maybe don't have all of the experience in the world, though. Obviously, Elizabeth Chunky is not on the court. And I think that while she is not the whole team, I think that she was a really solid part of that team. And I think that it's just going to take a little bit of time to get the other parts as solid. But I was going to wait and talk about this at the end, but I guess just talk about it now. I think that that's what the non-conference is for. You can argue that you need to pick up wins in the non-con and you need to pick up notable wins. And that's true. Especially if you're not a 2-bid league in some ways. But I don't think that the Summit is close enough to being a 2-bid league that we really need to worry about that. I think that our teams can take their time in the non-con to figure things out, play with different rotations, kind of mess around with stuff, and just see what works and gain that experience. I think that's super important because this is a very cutthroat league. This league is tough. You saw it last year. We had a couple teams down to the wire. We didn't know who was going to make it where. By the way, I think this argument that I'm about to make is now harder to make with the loss of Western Illinois. Also, if you didn't know that, Western Illinois went back to the OVC. We as people who are in the media or podcasters or in and around the league, we knew that was going to happen. We saw that coming. However, did not see it coming when it came. When it happened, I remember in the basketball group chat, we were like, I thought they had another year or 3 in them, but no, they were up and out. So they're back in the OVC doing what works for them. We wish them luck. As far as Dale Star and the volleyball team goes, they got some new jerseys this year. They're dope. They're fire. You should go on Twitter and scroll back and check those out. But obviously we're always going to support them. But back to what I was saying. With the loss of Western Illinois, this point that I'm about to make is tougher to make. Because with Western, we had 10 teams. Now we have 9. I think that with Western, the volleyball tournament probably should have been 8 teams, or at the very least 7, and give the 1 seed a bye. At the very least. Because I think that you have teams like Kansas City, fighting tooth and nail to get in. And I think they deserve to be there. And I think that had they gotten into the tournament, we may have seen a different result than what we saw. So I don't know. That would be my argument. I don't think that 6 teams is enough. I think even with 9 teams in the conference, I think that it needs to be 7. If not 8, in basketball, we've left one team out for years. Sucks if you're them, but I think that adds value to the conference schedule. So that's just me. Sorry for the rant. Let's keep going. Who are we talking about? South Dakota. I apologize. So USD is 3-5, picked first in the preseason poll. They have played the second toughest schedule in the conference, in my opinion. Typically, USD is a team that's going to play the absolute toughest conference schedule. I'll tell you why. That's not them. when we get further. They had a heartbreaking 5-set loss to Drake. They did, however, come back with a huge 5-set win over South Florida last week. I was told the attendance number was around 1,600. At least 1,600, I should say. 1,600, I think, was the reported number, or over 1,600. That's incredible. Absolutely keep it up, Yotes fans. Keep it up. And if you happen to be passing through Vermilion, or if you're in the Sioux City area, go see a volleyball match, because A, why not? The sport is growing. Like, there's not a better time or opportunity for that. I just think that's great. So great job, Yotes fans, on the attendance that you are setting. The Yotes will go to Green Bay this weekend to take on Green Bay, Illinois State, and Central Michigan. Good opportunity here to start a winning streak for the Yotes. I think that they can pick up a couple, if not 3, this weekend. So they play Green Bay tonight in about half an hour, I think. That match will be on ESPN Plus. So when you're hearing this, after I've edited it and put it out, that match will probably be happening. So if you're hearing this like right now, jump on it. Let's move on to the Bison. The Bison, don't yell at me, of North Dakota State. NDSU 7-2. They were picked second in the preseason poll. As I said earlier, there's a team or two in the league who I feel at this moment has a chance to take the conference title. NDSU is one of those teams. NDSU started 4-0. It was their best start in a while. I don't remember the specific stat, and I couldn't find the tweet because I've retweeted so much shit that I just couldn't find it when I went back to look for it. I want to say like 2006 or 2007 was the last time they started 4-0. That might be a huge exaggeration, but I'm pretty sure that's a spider. Okay. I was going to text my husband to come get it, but it's fine. Okay. Anyways, UND fudge buckets. NDSU swept in Moscow, Idaho. They beat Toledo. They beat Portland State. They beat Robert Morris earlier today. And they are taking on West Virginia as you are watching this. So, or as you will be watching this. That match starts in a half hour from right now, but when you're seeing this, it will be happening. If I'm still talking in a half hour, which I freaking hope I am not, and you see my eyes just like deflect, it's because I'm watching Alexis Bowling wreak absolute havoc. NDSU will round out their non-con tomorrow with Old Dominion. That match will, I think, be on ESPN Plus. It sounded like Big 12 Now / ESPN Plus, so I'm not sure if there's like a caveat to that, but it should be available somewhere. All right, moving on again to South Dakota State. South Dakota State is another team who has struggled early this season. They're 2-7. They have wins over Winthrop and Alcorn State. 5-set loss to Kent State. That one was tough for me. That's where my allegiance is split because I, as I mentioned, am no longer teaching at Clemson and am now a student again, and I happen to be a student at Kent State. So that one, I was like being pulled in both directions. But yeah, 5-set loss to Kent State. Keep in mind the Jacks cannot play at home because of the Frost renovations, the First Bank and Trust renovations. They've been on the road this whole time. They've been on the road. I believe they will be playing some home games in the Bobcat Gym at Brookings High. But yeah, that's got to be tough to not even be able to play in your own gym. Not an excuse for 2-7. Again, I think that they're looking to not necessarily replace, but rework. You know, Crystal Burke's not there anymore. Sydney Andrews isn't there anymore. Anna Nerad, I don't think, is there anymore. They graduated quite a few people. What they do have is Sydney Shetton from Sioux Falls, who came back home from Louisville. So that's good. That I think is going to be good for them. I think it's going to be good for Sydney, and I can't wait to see how she kind of works into the rotation in league play. Wow. Thanks for kicking me off the Wi-Fi. What the heck? SDSU has a tough weekend to round out the non-con. Montana showing up on their schedule. Boise State and Loyola Marymount. Loyola Marymount is a West Coast Conference team who beat some pretty good West Coast Conference teams last season. So that will be certainly a tough weekend for SDSU, a building opportunity, learning opportunity, and potential for a win or two. All 3 matches there on the Mountain West Network. I do believe that is a free link, or at least it has been in the past. I may, however, be confusing that with the Big Sky, so I'm not sure. But you should be able to access those if you go. Probably the best way is through SDSU's schedule. If you click on the volleyball schedule and then the little watch link, it will take you to the Mountain West, to their little link. All right, let's move on. Omaha Mavericks are 0-7. That being said, they have played the absolute toughest schedule in the league by far, by a million, by a lot. The Omaha Mavericks have played Texas A&M. You can't see me counting, sorry. Texas A&M, Nebraska, K-State, Iowa State, Kansas. That's 5 Power Fives. They're going to play Colorado. No, they're not. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Power Fives, plus Creighton, who is ranked, plus Long Beach State, who beat former number one Texas on opening day. So the K-State match, which you'll hear in the interview with Matt Buttermore if you haven't watched that already, kind of up and down. Omaha had a couple chances, kind of let a couple big leads go. Coach said they're working on a lot. They're talking about just doing the right thing more often and making more winning decisions. And I think we're going to see them succeed maybe later on in league play, but they're still kind of figuring some things out. But again, absolute toughest schedule. It's going to get tougher. They are going this weekend to Greeley to take on Big Sky champion Northern Colorado. Wichita State, who's not doing the best, but has played a pretty tough schedule and I think is pretty talented, and Bradley. So the Northern Colorado match will be on ESPN+. The other 2 will be live streamed on YouTube. If you go through Omaha's schedule and click the link, it'll just take you straight to YouTube, and you'll be able to watch those for freezies. Moving on, again, to St. Thomas. Ting Pham, head coach, 21st season, I believe. That's longevity. St. Thomas is 3-6. They lost a 5-setter on opening day to Illinois Chicago, who is at the top of the Missouri Valley. So again, we're seeing a lot of crossover with the Valley and the Big Sky and the Summit League, and everybody is on everybody's schedules. St. Thomas has wins over Cal Baptist, Evansville, and Northern Illinois. They will finish the non-con this weekend with Illinois State and Central Michigan. Unfortunately, neither of those matches will be available for viewing. St. Thomas hosted last weekend, I think, a little volleyball classic with 3 other teams. I believe that was the first time. So congrats to them. St. Thomas also just signed a media rights deal with Fox 9 in the Twin Cities area. I didn't see a lot of info in the article. I think it said the last 4 football games of the season and then select basketball games and maybe another sport that I can't remember what it was. So it doesn't necessarily affect volleyball too much. You can still find volleyball games on the Summit League Network. But good for St. Thomas. That's their first media rights deal ever, as far as I know. Outside of like what they have with the Summit League Network and Midco Sports. So that's pretty cool. Big D1 things for them. Moving on finally to our last team. Denver is 1-6. Let me change the banner because I forgot it. Denver's 1-6. Only win came over Idaho State just this afternoon, actually, when I was taking notes. Congrats to head coach Megan Pendergast. First career win as a head coach, first win at Denver. Congrats to you. Many more to come. If you don't know, Megan Pendergast came over from UCLA. I believe she also was an assistant coach at Omaha, UCLA, Omaha, and Tulsa. Omaha, Madison. Oh my God. UCLA, Oklahoma, and Tulsa are the places that Megan Pendergast was an assistant coach. I've confused Omaha and Oklahoma since I was a little kid. Like, I'm really not dumb. I just sometimes say dumb things. So, my bad. Anyway, point being, UCLA, most notably, Megan Pendergast has been on the coaching staff at some pretty incredible places for a long time. Certainly no shortage of knowledge, no shortage of enthusiasm for the game of volleyball. So we are excited to see what she will do at Denver. They will take on Colorado tomorrow to close out their non-conference schedule. That game will be on the Pac-12 network on pac12.com. That is a free link. Okay. Wow. That was a half hour of just non-con stuff. So, what can you expect from league play? I don't know. I'm already very surprised by a lot of things. I'm very surprised at what Kansas City is doing right now and the way that they're just absolutely ripping up everybody that they play. I love it, though. I think that they had the potential to do that last year, and it just kind of never manifested itself. I hate that word, manifested. I don't know why I said that. If you watch the I've Had It podcast, if you don't mind a little bit of language or vulgarity, they have a really good bit on manifesting and the trend. You should look it up. Anyways, I think that Kansas City had the ability to destroy last year, and they didn't. They did not reach that potential. So I love to see them do that this year. I hope that it continues into league play. I think it will be tougher. I think the league schedule is a tad tougher than what they've played in the non-con, with the exception of like a Missouri State or something like that. I don't know. Based on what I've seen, I think Kansas City could finish like in the conference, in the standings, like in the regular season, probably as high as second, but could win the tournament. So there's that. What else has surprised me? North Dakota State has been very consistent this year. A tad bit less consistent last year. Again, it's the non-con, not the regular season. So, or not the regular conference schedule. So anything could happen, but I'm really surprised and pleased with the consistency of the product that North Dakota State has put on the court. Other things that surprise me: North Dakota being 3-6, South Dakota State being 2-7. I hope that they, can turn that around a little. I think that this last weekend, as well as league play, is a good opportunity for that. South Dakota State's going to have a tougher time this weekend than I think North Dakota will, just because of the caliber of the teams that they're playing. But like I said, I think that the non-con is a time to take advantage of, and, work on things and mess with things and mess with rotations. And not all coaches do that. I wish more coaches would do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think our league is going to be really good this year. I think it's going to look a little different than it did last year. I think we're going to see some teams like Kansas City a little bit higher than we saw them last year. And I think we're going to see some teams a little bit lower than maybe we saw them last year. I don't know what to expect out of Oral Roberts, but I think that bodes well for them. I think that not knowing what to expect is good. They've got a new coach. They've got some new people in there. They've got a new system. Sure, they haven't won very many matches yet, but I think they will. I think that Trinity Freeman is going to lead them to a lot of good things, as well as Coach Luke Ward. So I don't know what to expect out of them, but I hope to see good things, and I can't wait to find out. Denver, I also don't really know, what to expect. I think that's normal with teams who maybe didn't perform like we thought they would last year. And especially when you get new head coaches. So we'll see. But I'm excited. I hope that, those are two schools that we were not able to have on the podcast last year just because of scheduling and other things going on. So definitely a priority for me to get Coach Pendergast and Coach Ward on the podcast if I can, if they're willing. I would love to just kind of pick their brains and hear what's going on at their respective schools and be able to share that with you, because I definitely don't want anyone to feel left out. Last year, I definitely heard some things from some people about, us not like having everyone on the podcast. Remember that that's not always our choice. I do what I can. If they say no, they say no. If they don't have time, they don't have time. That's probably the biggest one, is like not having time. Let me take this banner off of here. So yeah, just keep that in mind. If you have people you want me to talk to, if you know a super fan, or if your local radio personality is super cool and loves volleyball, like, and covers your team, tell me. If you go to our website, you can drop us like a little email, and that will come to me and I will see that. So definitely tell me if if you know anyone you want on the show, if you want to be on the show, if you are into volleyball, you know what you're talking about. Let me know. I always tweet out when we're about to have guests and we're about to have coaches. So if you follow our Twitter account, you can send in your questions and all that good jazz. I should have put banners up with our Twitter stuff. I didn't. I'll do that next time. But yeah, coolio, cool beans. League play starts, I believe, next Thursday. Let me check really quick. Let me check my trusty iPad. Wow, I sound bad. Sorry, guys. Okay. A little better. Not great, a little better. But I'm about to shut up soon so that you can listen to Emily Ehman and Matt Buttermore. All right. Yikes. Summit League Volleyball. Let's look at the schedule. It looks like Thursday, September 21st is when league play starts. So I will go over this with you again next week. But because it's probably going to come out on Thursday and you may not have time to watch it before the games, I'll give you the Thursday games. So we have SDSU at St. Thomas, 7 p.m., Summit League Network. North Dakota State at Oral Roberts, 7 p.m., Summit League Network. North Dakota at Denver, 7 p.m., question mark. I never know the Denver times. Is it in homeschool time? It must be. But it says all 4 games at 7 p.m. I'm going to assume that that's 7 p.m. Mountain. North Dakota, Denver at 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. everybody else. Also Summit League Network, and then Kansas City at Omaha at 7 p.m. Not Summit League Network, question mark. But Omaha has a free stream on OMAVs, so you can find that there. We will recap that next week. We'll talk about Saturday's games next week. I will hopefully have a guest for you. I haven't heard back on that yet, but I am hoping. I will bump that email to the top of their inbox tomorrow and make sure that we have somebody for you so that you don't have to listen to me talk for another 40 minutes again. But if you didn't want to listen to me talk, why would you be here? Let's be realistic. Just kidding. I'm iconic, though. Just kidding. All right, that's all I have for you. I'm going to let you listen to my interview with Matt Buttermore. We're going to play some trivia games. And then right after that, Emily Ehman, and we're going to play some trivia with her as well. I will not be back after that because I will be watching the Vikings-Eagles game. So that's all I have for you. I am so glad that you're back this season. If you're seeing this, I hope that you like the new format and what we're doing here. If you've got suggestions, please let me know. I'm always up to like develop my content creation and learn new things and try new things. So, all right, awesome. Sayonara later, skaters. Don't forget to stay on the summit.
All right, 7th rotation fans, Summit League volleyball fans, whoever you are, we are back. It's season 2, and I have the biggest guest that I've ever had, who certainly needs absolutely no introduction. But if you don't know who this is Emily Ehman, Big Ten volleyball analyst, former Northwestern volleyball standout. Emily, so glad you're here.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me. There's not a ton of volleyball podcasts or web shows out there. So, I say yes to them all, and I'm really happy to be on yours because you're doing an incredible job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really cool that you just said that to me. Awesome. I just want to talk about volleyball. So I guess I want to start with like your student athlete experience. You graduated from Northwestern in 2019, correct?
I finished playing in 2019, graduated in 2020.
Okay, awesome. What was it like to be a Division I college athlete? I mean, playing volleyball. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was, I mean, some of the most fun years of my life. I love Northwestern so much. It was my dream school from a super young age. My mom grew up around the Chicago area, Northwest Indiana. So we like grew up coming to Chicago all the time. And Northwestern being about a half hour outside of the city, that was kind of always my dream school. It was close to Chicago, semi close to home, but not too close to home. And my biggest thing when picking a college was I really wanted a good journalism program. And that landed me with, Northwestern, Syracuse, Cornell, some of these top journalism schools. And, I always knew I wanted to go into broadcasting, and it ended up working out. My high school coach knew the Northwestern coach at the time, who was not who I ended up playing for, but it worked out. I ended up walking on, committed, I think the end of my sophomore year, maybe beginning of my junior year. And it was incredible. I mean, from the minute I stepped on campus, it felt like home to me. The girls felt like home. And then we had a coaching change before I came in, and I could not have been more happy with ending up with Shane Davis. He's one of the greatest people on the planet, a father figure to me now, friend and mentor I have in this space. And it was a lot of fun. In terms of volleyball, we didn't win a lot of games. We were bottom of the Big Ten. As it's hard to win games in the Big Ten, especially when you're rebuilding a program. But seeing where that program was when I came in 2016 to seeing where it is now is super cool. We're beating top 10 teams. We're getting a lot more airtime on networks, and just seeing the job that Shane's done has been so exciting to think of where that program came from. And the other thing I will say is, you're playing in the Big Ten, so it's not only the hardest volleyball conference, but you're also going to school at Northwestern, which is one of the top schools in the country. And that was really difficult. I've never been someone who necessarily struggled with grades, but I also didn't necessarily have to work as hard as I did in school until I went to Northwestern. And it was really hard to balance. Of course, you're balancing volleyball and academics, but I also wanted to have a social life. And I also, wanted to get sleep, and something had to give there. So I basically ended up getting no sleep throughout college, but I will say it was absolutely worth it. And I had a blast. When I look back at my time, like truly best 4 years of my life. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also want to talk about, growing up in Indiana, you're a Midwest girly. Like myself, I'm from South Dakota. And the Midwest is a really rich area for volleyball. Volleyball, and breathes in the Midwest, and there are coaches all over the country that came from the Midwest. So just what was that? You mentioned Northwestern being your dream school, but you're also close to, Ohio State, and Wisconsin is in the area, and just these other schools that are really have rich volleyball histories.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, if they don't know volleyball, they think of, the sport, and they think of Southern California or schools like that. And I don't think a lot of people outside realize how big of a hub the Midwest is. You think about just growing up in clubs like, sports performance, clubs like Munciana. I played at Circle City, a really good club in Indianapolis. And there's so many great clubs in the area, and volleyball is so big for, young girls coming up in the game. And the clubs are incredible. So many high school teams are just top notch. My whole life in club, from, I don't know, like age 10 to sophomore year of high school, I was playing at a local club that wasn't very big. And we would, we didn't go to any of the USA tournaments. We'd go to AAUs every year in Orlando. But I ended up switching to Circle City my junior year. And that opened my eyes even more to like how many good people there were. And, I ended up playing on a twos team my entire time there, because everyone on the ones team was like going to Stanford, like starting for Ohio State, like all these crazy schools. And it really opened my eyes to how many good players there were in the area, because I don't think I realized that. And not only on, at my club, but clubs nearby that just had absolute studs. And thinking now in the position that I'm in terms of covering the sport, like there's so many coaches that have come from, places like Muncie, or just like the coaching trees. So many of them are Midwest heavy. I don't think people realize that I would say out of the entire country in terms of girls coming up through the game and coaches, like the Midwest is really where it's at with, I'm going to lump Nebraska in there, but like Nebraska, Indiana, Ohio State, Kentucky, Wisconsin, there's so many good players and coaches coming from those places.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think of, I used to live in Clemson. I lived there for 2 years and went to all the volleyball games. Huge fan of Jackie Simpson here and just what she's doing with that program. But half of Clemson's roster is like Illinois, Indiana, like all these places. You just wouldn't expect that. But yeah, there's a girl in the Summit League. Her name's Kamara Whetstone. She plays for Kansas City. I'm sure she's not the only one, but she came out of Munciana and she's so good. It's just insane. So yeah, I think that one of the things that the Midwest can lay claim to, like, is volleyball. There's not a lot of other sports that the Midwest can say, like, we built this. But it seems that way for volleyball.
It's funny too, because I growing up in Indiana, I mean, it's a basketball hub. I grew up in a basketball family. My uncle played basketball at Indiana, so I had like basketball in my blood, and watching him. He's a sportscaster. He was for ESPN, did college basketball, and like it's such a basketball hub. But I think that's mainly just for men. Like every girl was playing volleyball. They would do basketball on the side, but it was really a volleyball hub. And even in a state where like you automatically think basketball, it's still for girls it was always volleyball. That was a go-to.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite part of your job right now? What do you love so much about broadcasting?
Oh, that's a good question. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I always knew I wanted to be a broadcaster. I think part of it is staying in sports, but not having to play or coach. I knew I never wanted to coach, but I knew I wanted to be around sports, and I wasn't good enough to play professionally, nor would I wanted to play professionally, because that would mean I have to go overseas and all of that. But I think my favorite part now is being able to tell the stories of the game. Now, whether that's the story of a certain athlete or a coach or a program, or just a story of how a game is unfolding. I love that. It's different every time. I can walk into a game and it's never going to be the same as a game I did a week ago, even if I have the same teams. I think back to last year, like I had, say, a Nebraska, Wisconsin, like the storylines for one game are way different than the storylines a month later. And, the players are constantly changing, the teams are evolving. And I love that story aspect of it where, I can tell, feature type stories of coaches or players, but when the game's unfolding, it's always different. And it's really, really fun. And I like the fact that I can also just be around athletics again without having to play or coach, because that was never something that I wanted to do.
I think that's interesting. Do you have a reason why you didn't want to coach? Because it's very rare, I think, to hear an athlete say, I'm never doing that.
Yeah. I will say, like, I don't love dealing with like middle school aged people, even like high school people. It's not my jam. They're too moody. It's too much for me. I
was unbearable in middle school.
Yeah. I'm like, I know how I was. I wouldn't want to have coached me. I think also my uncle that played basketball at IU, he also was a coach. And I grew up most of my life. He was coaching at Bowling Green and watching, just how that affected the personal relationships he had, like having to move all the time and being gone all the time. I never wanted that for myself. I think my job is interesting that I'm still gone all the time in that sense, but I also have the stability of having a job constantly and not having to worry about like getting fired unless I do something crazy. Whereas if you're going up in the coaching tree, like you have to move from place to place to make it, especially even if you're a head coach, there's constantly pressure. If you lose one bad game, like you could get fired from that school. So I think I like the stability of being around sports, but not having the pressure of having to win and that performance-based aspect. Of course, my job, I am performing, I'm entertaining, that's part of it, but I don't have to worry about at the end of the day, like a win or a loss. It's just how I do. And I can control that, which is nice. I don't have to worry about other people. I'm not coaching other people to do it. Like I know if I'm failing at that, it's me and it's not someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on just volleyball's like rise in popularity, where volleyball was 10 years ago? The fact that we just broke a world record in a freaking football stadium, the Pro Volleyball Federation now that's coming up, like all of it. What are your thoughts on all that?
It's been so cool to see. And I think back even to when I was in college, which wasn't that long ago. I started in 2016, and thinking about the media coverage that we had was so bare minimum. I know, I can really only speak for Big Ten Network because I see their numbers all the time. But, in the last, I think 7 years, we've doubled the amount of games that we've had on the network. Viewership has risen like 200%. It's crazy the amount of people that are watching the sport. And a lot of that is coming from the rise in a lot of young girls playing. So volleyball now is the most played sport among young girls. And I think that has a really big drive in who's watching these games. And, people now falling in love with some of these athletes and teams because of the rise of really social media and TV grasping on, because they can see these athletes in a different light. They can connect with them a little bit more. I think a lot of that is driving it. I also will say, I think how good USA volleyball has been has really helped. And I don't think people talk about that enough. This team won a gold medal in 2021, and people, I think, started to notice how big volleyball was, how exciting it is to watch. When you have something to root for, especially on the Olympic level, it really draws you in. Like, for example, I've never cared about curling in my life, but you watch the USA curling team and they're winning medals left and right. It's so fun. And I didn't care before, but I think people that when you watch volleyball and you turn it on, it's a sport that is really hard to turn off because of how fast paced it is, how athletic everyone looks, how impressive it is to see these athletes doing what they're doing. And it's been so exciting, just to see coming off of that Olympic year and USA winning a gold medal to now, record viewership on nearly every single network, more games going on every single network. It's been so exciting. And now to have professional leagues in the US starting up, Athletes Unlimited started in 2021 with their volleyball league. They're going on season 3 here in the fall. We have Pro Volleyball Federation starting up in January. It's a perfect time because people have realized how fun this sport is to watch, how much they like it. And I think what the networks are also realizing is that when they put it on and when they advertise it and promote it, like, people want to watch it and they're not turning the TV away. I know at Big Ten Network, one thing that we really try to do is schedule games, say on a Saturday, like after football games, because what we find is it doesn't hurt the viewership. It really helps propel it because people will keep that game on because it's so exciting. So I think that's been fun to see, the viewership grow, and people that are, the heads, the coordinating producers, the people that are managing a lot of those time slots are really tinkering with stuff and getting creative, and it's paying off because we're seeing record viewership. And what that means is that the sport's growing because now it's going to be on TV more. Now people see it, and growing up, they can say, oh, I want to play for a team that's going to be on TV more. That looks super fun. So, there's so many factors that are going into it, but for someone who has been playing the sport since I was 9 years old and who has now made a career out of it, it's the most exciting thing ever to see the sport just exploding.
Yeah, absolutely. A question that comes from someone that is a loyal 7th rotation listener. His name is Troy. We love Troy because he always gives me questions when I ask for them. But he wants to know something that mid-major fans grapple with is not necessarily getting enough attention. Broadcasters not knowing anything about us, calling us San Diego State when we're actually South Dakota State. Just had to throw that one in there. I know, never you. I know, it wasn't you. Just throwing that out there. But what is I guess something that we grapple with is, are we just being loyal fans, or is this actually special? We can fill arenas too. What is your perception of mid-major volleyball?
Yeah, I think it's been exciting to see because as we're talking about, a lot of these other teams getting viewership numbers, I feel like there has been a really big growth at the mid-major level. And that's not only just getting better recruits and these teams getting better. I think we've seen it across volleyball as a whole, not just from Power 5 teams, but a lot of mid-majors too. They're getting a lot better. And in these preseason games, they're pushing teams, I know, I think it's probably difficult as a fan and someone that's very passionate about, say the Summit League specifically, or any mid-major conference. It's you want to see what's happening for these other conferences and teams and programs. You want to see that happen for you. And I think that's so important to continuously push that conversation, keep asking for it. And I would say, to answer your question, my perception is that it's getting a lot bigger. I think, say, for example, for the last few years, a player like Elizabeth Junkie, she does wondrous things for mid-major programs because now people know of her. They know of, the school, which means they probably know of the conference a lot more. You're more willing to watch those games because you have recruits and players like her that are pushing it forward. So I think as the sport grows, mid-majors have also grown a lot because now, you know, you can get these bigger recruits in these places, which just draws eyeballs to it, which is so important in just elevating a lot of these mid-major conferences and programs to get more eyeballs on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody sent me a tweet last year after volleyball season that said at the time, I don't know if it ended up this way, but it said at the time, the University of South Dakota had like the #4 recruiting class for volleyball. And we were like, did we read that right? Like, are we sure? But I mean, I think that like leagues like the Summit League specifically have a lot to pick from. Being in the, you know, South Dakota, Nebraska, like being in that area, there's no reason that we can't get there. So awesome. Before we play our little trivia game, I do have a question from someone who will remain nameless until after I finish the question. But they would like to know which NCAA Libero can or will break Kristen Hahn Tupac's Athletes Unlimited dig record of 24 digs in 3 sets.
Does it have to be an Athletes Unlimited player?
No, which NCAA Libero can or will?
Oh. This season, I mean, I would say Kylie Murr. I think she's right now putting up numbers that are literally insane. Insane. And I will say, to me, I think of a libero like Lexi Rodriguez, and I think people know how good she is, so they avoid her so she doesn't get the numbers. But I think for Minnesota specifically, like she's taking up literally half the court, so they can't hit around her. And I think the numbers she's putting up are just literally insane. And at least for me, getting to cover her all the time, like my jaw just drops every time she makes a play because I just like truly cannot believe it. And as a libero myself, I'm like, I can't even imagine making any of these plays, and she just does it left and right. So I don't know. She's up there for me in terms of defensive player of the year, I would say.
Well, and that's why Kristen, obviously that came from Kristen. Kristen wrote the question. Yeah, Kristen wrote the question as can, and I changed it to can or will, because there's like Lexi Rodriguez can, but will she? Like, I think it's probably more of a, I would agree with your analysis.
Also,
when
Kristen,
she sent me that question,
love you. She's the best.
Well, when she sent me that question, she was like, I have a question for Emily. I was like, okay, like waiting for her typing. And then when the next text came through or whatever, and I read it, I was like, so you guys know each other, right? Like, I didn't know if you knew each other or not. But I was like, the way this is coming out.
I think, so I covered her in Athletes Unlimited their first season in the bubble. So like, I got to know the girls really well. And I remember, I mean, she was just balling out that year. And I remember telling her that she had like the most digs in a game or something. And because I'm really into stats, especially when I'm like post-game interview, like I like to throw a lot in there. And I remember telling her, it was like, Kristen, you just had the most digs in an Athletes Unlimited match, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh my God, I did? That's so exciting. It was the cutest thing because she, you know, they're playing out there. They have no idea how many digs they're putting up, but no, she was the best. She's a baller. I always loved watching her. She did things that not a lot of liberos are doing.
Yeah, I'm still getting to know everyone kind of, because this is only my second season in this. I've been doing basketball for longer, but for volleyball, it's pretty new. But when I interviewed Omaha's coach the other day, whenever that was, earlier this week, she sent me a DM and said, question for Buttermore, ask him if he considered a sky ball for first serve against Nebraska. And I was like, oh my God.
Someone said that to me too. They're like, can someone please throw in a sky ball just to do it? And I was like,
just for kicks and giggles.
Good, just to like get a funny clip out there on social or something. Like, might as well.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, he said they messed around with him in practice on Tuesday, but he said it's one thing to do it there, and I said exactly. It's one thing to have Gilmore on the driving range. It's another thing to do it on the course. So
yeah, the biggest stage in volleyball ever. No, he's
no kidding. In front of a world record crowd.
He's awesome.
All right, we are going to play a little trivia game. Can you see this? Is this showing up?
I can see it. I will preface this with I don't know how I'll do, but I'm going to do my best.
That's okay. It's all fun and games. So this is Summit League Volleyball Trivia with Emily Ehman. All right, your first question. In 2022, what Summit League program became the first, oops, sorry, my logo is covering that up, became the first team in the league since 2017 to win both the regular season and tournament title in the same season?
I actually know this. South Dakota.
You are correct.
Woo! Here we go.
1 for 1. All right. What Summit League program has made the most NCAA tournament appearances with 7?
I feel like Denver's had a lot of really good runs. I guess I'll go Denver.
All right. It is Oral Roberts.
Dang it.
I did the same thing you did. So actually, shout out Michael Palmer from the league for these questions. Michael Palmer has never not come through for me when I've texted him with something. But he sent me these, and I said, "Are these all volleyball related?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "There's no way number 2 is Oral Roberts. It's Denver." And he was like, "No, Denver has 6." Oral Roberts has been in the league so long. They did leave for a short time, but I think it was, what did he say? I have to find the number now that he sent me for all the years that they made it.
Yeah, because I feel like Denver, more so in recent years, probably has made the tournament. Like I don't even know the last time Oral Roberts was in it. I feel like it's been.
He said ORU was 1997 to 2002 in a row, and then 2006.
Okay, so yeah, long time ago. But that good for them.
Yeah, so don't feel bad about that one because I got to run too. All right, where was last season's Summit League tournament held?
I'm literally just gonna guess. Kansas City.
Omaha.
Dang it.
This year it will be in Vermillion, South Dakota, because it is held at the school who won the regular season the year prior.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Besides Elizabeth Junkie, who is the other Summit League student athlete named an ABCA honorable mention All-American last season?
McKenna Rook.
You are correct. How many is that?
I've got
2 right, 2 wrong? I think you got 2.
I'm 50-50 right now. So
50-50.
500. Batting 500.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good batting average. What Summit League school this season broke a record for the most wins to start their season in their program's history, going at 6-0? You are correct. Christy Posey, Queen Christy Posey is Kansas City. South Dakota was projected to finish first in this season's Summit League preseason poll. Who was projected to finish second?
Omaha?
North Dakota State.
Oh!
Omaha was projected third, I think.
See, I should know that. I just had their game. I knew they were up there. I just remember they weren't picked first, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the Summit League has really kind of been anybody's league lately.
Yeah.
South Dakota had a couple runs for their money last year. Which Summit League head coach has been the head coach at their school the longest?
Posey?
You'd think. She has been, I think this is her 13th season. Luke Ward is in his first. Leanne's been there a while. I don't know how many, though. And actually, Tang Pham at St. Thomas, this will be his 21st season.
Dang.
Yeah. He has walked through fire and rain with the Tommies.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, I didn't show the right, but yeah, there's the right answer. I think those are all the questions. They are all the questions.
Did I get 3, 2?
I think 3 or 4.
I'll take that. And
I'm not knowing anything.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely know some things, but I think for me, like I graduated in 2020. So I've only been in, the business for about 3 years now. So I feel like I know all the recent relevant things, but if we start going back, I couldn't even tell you things about the Big Ten. So.
Oh no, it was all fun and games. And truthfully, like, sure, this is a Summit League podcast, but I didn't bring you on here to talk about the Summit League. Brought you on here to just shoot the breeze, And I think as mid-major fans, we know that not everybody knows everything. We just don't want to be called the wrong school name. It's all.
Super fair. I think it's funny too. I think maybe, and this is just a women in sports thing, but, and I will say, don't run into this as much with volleyball, but you'll start talking sports with someone and they'll be like, oh, well, who was the tournament champion back in 1997? And what was the coach's name? And I'm like, what are we doing
Who
here?
cares?
Literally, who cares? Also, I wasn't alive, so whatever.
No kidding. I was not even in the womb at that point.
What are we doing?
No, it's just not worth it. I saw a tweet the other day about the world record that was broken in Nebraska last week or the week before. And someone had retweeted it or quote tweeted it and said, this should shut up the nobody watches women's sports crowd. And I was like, for real. But there are still people out there saying things like that. And I'm just like, at this point, it's like, if we've proven it to you and you still just refuse to believe it, not my problem anymore.
I think part of it is like, yeah, because doing that game, I feel like my Twitter feed for the most part was 99% full of like, this is so cool. People that like don't even watch, volleyball in general. Like, you have people like Magic Johnson, Pat McAfee, like tweeting about it. And then you have that 1% that's like, oh, well, there, of course, because there's a concert after. And it's like, well, if you knew anything about this and you actually were there, maybe 2,000 people stayed for that concert. Like literally no one cared at all. They actually were annoyed that it came on so quickly because people couldn't take pictures after the game. And like, I don't know. I think some people just don't get it. And I think there's that 1% that just is never going to get it. And I don't think this is about proving things to them. I think it's about showing people that we're here to stay, and it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to believe in it or not. You don't have to support it, but it's here and it's only going to get bigger.
Absolutely. And it's sustainable. Like if it was ever to prove anything, it's that it's sustainable. And that's so clear now. It doesn't even matter anymore. So
yeah. And it's like the people that you look up to, like the Joe Burrows of the world, they're, investing millions of dollars in pro leagues because they believe it can also work. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. New professional women's volleyball league, professional women's hockey league is now up and coming. Like there's just so many awesome things that are happening. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was so cool. I'm glad that I needed absolutely 0 retweets to get you on the podcast.
I come on everything anyone asks me to if I can. And I love what you're doing. I think it's so important to boost up some of these programs that don't get enough love. Because I think, a lot of us are fighting the good fight of pushing volleyball forward, but not enough people are doing it for the teams that don't already get recognition. So I love what you're doing. It's awesome. Again, you do an incredible job. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, Seventh Rotation fans, that is Emily Ehman. We will be back after this. All right, listeners, we are back. New season, and we already have a guest for you, and it is Coach Matt Buttermore of Omaha. Coach, you're in your 5th season now, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. 5th season. You're coming off back-to-back 20-win seasons, back-to-back Summit League Championship match appearances, and your first ever postseason experience in the NIVC last year. So certainly some great things happening in the program. So firstly, I have to ask about Volleyball Day in Nebraska. A lot of the conversation has been focused on the Huskers, but obviously being in Omaha, that was a big experience for you guys as well. So just talk to me a little bit about what the experience meant for you and for your team and your staff.
Yeah, God is always good, but some days you feel more blessed than others, and that was definitely one of those days. And I was happy for our student athletes. You think of old student athletes that you wish could have experienced it as well. As somebody that grew up in the state and I know a lot of the people that were honored and personally and things like that. So just for me personally, it was just a really neat day. I never had a doubt that the stadium would sell well. I probably wouldn't have called a super fast sellout, but I knew it was going to be more popular than they thought. But I was happy our coaching staff got to experience that. I think our student athletes that came and watched, our other students here at UNO that came down and made the trip, we appreciate them. It was a wonderful experience for everybody.
Yeah, awesome. Certainly would have called that the stadium would fill up, but world record was not on my bingo card. So that's pretty awesome for volleyball and for the Summit League to get to be a part of that as well.
Yeah.
A couple follow-ups to that. A listener mentioned to me that you seem to share a laugh with Nebraska's Coach Cook. post-match, and he wants to know if you can tell us how that conversation went.
He said, you guys passed really well. And I said, yeah, we just couldn't score. And he's like, yeah, who can set in the wind? And that was, I think that was it, just, glad we could be here. Thanks for the opportunity. And I think that's pretty much it. A couple other exchanges. I mean, I'd seen him probably a week or two before at another interview, so we'd already talked a little bit about things then and everything. So, but yeah, that was it.
Awesome. Another follow-up. This is from someone who will remain nameless until your answer to the question is given. Okay. But the question is, did you consider a sky ball for your first serve at Memorial Stadium?
Is this from Ted?
No, it is not from Ted.
No, I never considered it. We did mess around with them on Tuesday at practice, but it's one thing to hit one in practice. It's another thing to actually do it in front of 92,000 people. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. One thing to Happy Gilmore in practice, and another thing to Happy Gilmore on the course.
Right.
It was from Kristen Tupac, actually, from Kristen Tupac. I was surprised when I saw she sent me a DM. I was like, what is Kristen up to? And she said, for Buttermore. And I was like, okay, I see what we're doing here.
Yeah. No, it never crossed my mind, but we had some fun with it on Tuesday. It was kind of windy on Tuesday as well, so which is weird. We had a really calm summer here in Nebraska, and at least in the Omaha area, very little wind. And so we kind of had two, I wouldn't say super windy days, but definitely windier than we've had. So that was a little unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Would you have rather it been windy as it was, or had been 100 degrees as it has been?
Ooh, that's two tough decisions. I would probably go with the heat, actually, though, especially because by the time we played, the sun was down, and we thought the wind would help us. It kind of, with our tempo and stuff, we'd control the ball a little better, but really it just became a little harder to set. And, we're giving up probably 6 inches in reach on swings and things. So, and so our windows are smaller to hit for our setters. So, and so it just made those kinds of things harder, and they were able to dominate us at the net in a way that we maybe weren't thinking would happen with the wind. So now maybe the scores would be the same if it wasn't windy. I don't really know, but it was frustrating because we thought we played pretty good defense in stretches, but couldn't capitalize in transition.
Yeah, well, and it's hard to practice in that or for that as well, especially when the weather changes all the time.
I mean, if we're really going, we'd switch every 7 points and everything. That's what you do in the beach, but it is what it is, and it's a great experience. And I don't know if it would have. I mean, I don't know. You never know. But that was just one thing we were thinking. So if we ever get a chance to play in front of 92,000 people again, we'll maybe do something different, I guess. I don't know.
Awesome. This is a combination question from me and from our listener, Troy G. from Sioux Falls. Getting into your schedule a bit, you started the season with 4 Power 5 opponents, and back-to-back, I think, Texas A&M, Kansas, Nebraska, and K-State. So kind of how did that schedule fall into place, I guess, is part one. And then part 2 is, have you seen anything in practice that you've been able to implement, from playing Power 5 opponents? And then lastly, does the team look forward to those opportunities? Are they excited about it?
The last question, yes, I think so. You have to be careful. You don't want to just – we want to play games, and we think we have the talent to compete with these teams. So maybe we're not quite experienced enough yet, but so that's kind of your first question. So we have to be careful. I think there is excitement. Obviously, there's excitement for Volleyball Day. K-State, they're opening their new beautiful arena. They really did a nice job with that. So there's excitement. How the schedule came together, we were going to go play at UIC second weekend because Volleyball Day originally back in January they'd slotted in a Tuesday. So we thought, well, we can still get on a plane and go play. And that would have been mid-major programs. But once it got moved to Wednesday, I didn't think that was a good setup for us. And I thought a bus trip, and one match that weekend would be the best. And that's, K-State just happened to have the perfect opening. And, and frankly, I thought we really gave ourselves a chance to win that match in two sets, or change the tone of the match for sure in 2 sets. And, we thought we would do better in that match, to be honest. So, and, the first weekend we had KU on return because we went there last year, and, that just Texas A&M wanted to come and play us, and so that's just the way the first weekend worked out. So some of it's we do always schedule aggressively. We won't shy away from anyone, and some of it's just luck or perfect storm on some things.
Yeah. So you mentioned K-State, which is something that I wanted to bring up. I was certainly a combination of standing and sitting and screaming at the TV throughout that match. Like you said, you probably could have gone a little bit better. What are you working on to make sure that when you get in those big lead situations that you can kind of stay strong and not necessarily fall apart in those moments?
Well, we just got to do the right thing, is what we talked about today in film and in practice. So we have to make winning decisions more often. We are making the game way too easy. Even going back to KU, we hit the ball to the libero or their middle back defenders, who one of them is really, really good, way too much. And just the game is too easy for the other team on the other side of the net against us right now. So that's something we've been really working on. I think we did a little better job of that at K-State, but we still had some situations where we just gave them free points and gave them easy situations on their side of the net when we really could have messed up the game for them and made it a lot harder. So that's been in addition to some of the connections and the other stuff. When we play great defense, we're playing better defense now. All right, what are we going to do with this ball, even if it's not quite right? So that's been the emphasis right now. Maybe we don't really need to do much better. We just need to make a few better decisions during the set, and we'll get 2 points out of that. And certainly Friday, that would have made a huge difference. And in these other matches, against Texas A&M, that would have made a huge difference. And you put a little more pressure, 2 points on the other team, and maybe they make a few errors, and then maybe we push KU a little bit farther, and have a chance to win that match. Maybe we break 20 against Nebraska. So these are the things we're working on.
Awesome. Also from our listener, Troy G, he says, on paper, you have a really experienced and really tall front court, but some of these other schools have kind of leveraged the transfer portal. So regarding the portal, do you see mid-majors specifically being advantaged or disadvantaged by the portal?
Well, I have no idea. I think for us, it's a lot of times it's kids wanting to come home. And do they, align with what our needs are and what our scholarship availability is. So, it's kind of, we never want to bank on the portal in any year. I think that's some programs leave a scholarship free for the portal. I've heard, I don't really know. I've heard of that strategy. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. We want to recruit, great kids from the region, occasionally go out of the region, obviously, but and develop them and build them up. And, we want, to work with them for 4 years. That's our goal. We want 4-year players. So transfers have helped us, obviously, with, Jaden and Bus and Kennedy. And, Erica's a JUCO transfer. It's a little different. But so we've certainly benefited from the portal in the past. This year didn't really work out for us. And actually it might have worked out for us, because I don't know if we would have had Amanda if we would have got somebody in the portal. So she was a very late commit.
Yeah, awesome. You mentioned Erica Fava, who that's where I was going next, actually. Next question. She put on a serving clinic this weekend. Seems to be an awesome player, came over from Western Nebraska. Can you just talk a little bit about her and how she's impacted your team in the short time that she's been here?
Yeah, she's passing really well, so that's an impact. And she's just a really good athlete, a lot of experience. She hit at Western Nebraska. She was a 2-time All-American there. Her family's a volleyball family. Her parents have played professionally. Her siblings have played professionally in Italy. So, she just knows the game really well. And loves being, she went to high school in Kansas her senior year, and then COVID happened and she missed a year, and then she was back. So for JUCO. So her impact has been, passing. Her serving was a lot more consistent this last week. We saw the kind of pressure she can put on other teams, so that was really neat to see. And then as she kind of gets acclimated to the rest of our system, she'll continue to get better and better.
Awesome.
I think I answered.
Yeah, you did, absolutely. I like to frame my questions as talk to me about this, so that there's not really a question there, and you can just say whatever.
There we go.
Oh yeah, this is what I really wanted to get to. You have
is this from Troy G again?
State. Sorry, what was that?
Is this from Troy G again?
No, this is from me.
Okay.
You have Long Beach State coming up on Thursday. Not a Power 5, but they did just smash Texas on opening day, 3-1. Have you done anything differently to prepare for this match than you would other matches, or kind of, I guess, what's the message regarding Long Beach?
Long Beach does some different things at the net. So just in terms of how they handle the third contact, they'll mess with the timing of the block and things like that. And we don't need to change. In fact, the way we block, it should, when we do it right, and in some spots we're kind of young, so we don't always do it right, but when we do it right, we should be in pretty good shape. But also just winning and being creative at the net, and we worked on that a little bit today. I think that'll be important against Creighton too. They're always very salty at the net. So that was an emphasis in today's practice, being aggressive, going up to win, not just surviving. Can we score on some of these tie balls? So we'll see if we can make a little bit of progress, and it's something that's really a part of their game. So we just need to counteract it a little bit, and hopefully, win other parts of the match on Thursday.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the volleyball chat. We're going to move into the non-serious portion now.
Okay.
You know that I like to screw around. So what I've done, normally I ask sappy questions like, what's your favorite food on the road or whatever. I today decided to be very original, and I know that you're not ready for it. So the Omaha volleyball Twitter has been doing the get to know your team and tweeting the graphics of the girls with 10 questions that they've answered. So what I've done is picked 10 questions, 10 random. None of them are the same answer, so all of them are going to be a different player. And I'm going to put the question up and see if you know which player said what.
Oh,
we'll see
great.
How you do. I knew that was going to be your reaction. I was telling my husband about it. I was like, he's going to be not happy about this at all.
No, I don't get on Twitter that often. Okay.
Well, you've retweeted them.
I've retweeted them. That doesn't mean I studied it.
I know. All right. First question. What TV theme can Annika Evester? Thank you. Okay. So you know what's going on. You know what's going on. All right.
I can read them. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, perfect. No, that's okay. Who said their superpower of choice would be mind reading?
Problem is, I don't remember who all is gone. Superpower of choice, mind reading. Morgan DeBoe? Give me one more quick.
Myers.
What?
Oh, sorry. I just gave you the answer.
I knew it was too. They're kind of the same person.
All right. Yeah, all right. So you got one right now. Who said that they would want to hang out with The Rock when asked what celebrity they would hang out with?
I remember seeing this. Who wrote it down? Amanda? Golly. Who was it?
Do you want one more guess?
Yeah, I do. I can't. Maybe because I was an Arizona thing, maybe Olivia T.
Nope.
Oh.
It was Emily Huss.
Sorry, Emily.
All right. When asked about their pre-match ritual, who said, I'm very superstitious, so it would take a 5-page essay to explain it?
That sounds like Shayla.
That is Shayla. You got 2.
I didn't know. I don't remember she wrote that, but that just sounds like Shayla.
That's why I picked that one, because even if you didn't read it, that's obvious enough that you would know who said it.
Appreciate it. I needed a win.
Yeah. Which player can't write in cursive?
That's Morgan.
That is Morgan. Got 3.
She can talk in cursive. Ask her about it sometime.
Okay. I will have to. I'll have to. Yeah. Whose greatest volleyball achievement is getting over 1,000 kills in high school?
that be? Kaylee?
Nope, you already answered, Kaylee.
I know. Oh, I didn't know you could. Okay.
It's only, yeah. They're all different.
I don't know if that would have helped me, but I wouldn't have said Kaylee. 1,000 kills. Who would have had 1,000 kills? Quite a few of them. Brindley?
Bryn McNair.
Oh, shoot.
Close. You're kind of on the right track. When asked what 2 things they would bring to a deserted island, who said they would bring goldfish?
Who said they would bring goldfish? I remember reading goldfish. Who was it? Because I remember thinking that's a terrible snack to bring to an island. Who was it?
I agree. I would bring whales. Whales are better.
Oh, yeah. Or beef jerky or something. Briley.
Erica.
Oh!
All right. Which one of your players cannot live without Dr. Pepper?
Oh, I feel like this is like 4 of them, but I think Rachel Fairbanks. No?
McKenna.
Actually, I didn't know she was such a Dr. Pepper fan. I know Rachel and Erica are.
If I was, McKenna is in much better shape than I am. However, when I was a college athlete, I was certainly not like telling my coach that I was drinking Dr. Pepper all the time. So maybe you're not supposed to know that.
Maybe she's sneaky about praising Dr. Pepper around me.
Who wants their superpower to be controlling time?
Ooh, I don't. This is going to be a guess. Wait, who haven't we said yet? I should have been writing down the right answers, then I would have a better way to narrow this down. I don't know this one. I'll throw a guess out. Superpower controlling time. I'm going to go Brindley Arnold.
No. I will give you a hint, I guess. Her name is Olivia, but you have to tell me if it's Curry or Takufu.
Kind of sounds like an Olivia Curry thing.
Olivia T. You've got one more chance to get a 40%. So no matter what, you say.
You're right. It feels like I've gotten none right.
All right. Who said that their unique talent was taking naps?
Who was this one? Taking naps. That might have been Rachel.
Rachel.
All right.
40%.
40.
Good job. Some of those are pretty tough.
They weren't easy. There were, honestly, I kind of gravitated to a couple, like the business they would start, and what was the other question on there that I would skim through, but I could probably do the business on more of them than I got on the others. But Desert Island, I definitely skimmed through that. Didn't read that one, obviously.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you putting up with my games. Glad you came back, and I wish you luck this season, and hopefully we'll see you down the line.
All right. Thanks, Madison.
Awesome. Thank you.